You're watching MBTV.
Hello and welcome to MB Currents, where we break down current issues that matter to residents of Miami Beach. I'm Maria Palacios. In this edition, we'll be talking about historic preservation. Our guests today are Mayor Matti Herrera and Assistant City Manager George Gomez. Thank you both for being here. We hear a lot about historic preservation, but what does that really mean to our residents, visitors in our community?
Well, to our residents, it means the beauty that we have here, but also that we have a lot of downzone. We don't have tall buildings in the ocean because by keeping the historic buildings, the historic buildings are 2 or 3 stories in Ocean Drive and in maybe 5 stories in South Beach. So we didn't allow the growth and the upzoning that was allowed a long time ago. So that is something that is very important for the residents to understand. But besides that, we have the only 20th century, 21st century, or 20th century in the nation. We have over 800 buildings that are Art Deco, and no place else there are so many buildings together that you can really walk around and see them. So that's very important to us.
And you know, just to touch upon that, when historic preservation began here in the city in the late 70s, early 80s, it was at a time when everywhere else in the country, you know, massive urban redevelopment was the norm. And as the mayor says, the tendency was really for demolition and new construction, especially here in South Florida, where everybody thought that the only way to have economic vitality was with tall buildings.
That's right.
And through hard efforts, well, mostly from the community, and it was really a grassroots movement, it proved that historic preservation was a good, strong economic component to and added to the vibrancy of the city, besides also then protecting just the cultural heritage that the architecture brings to any community. So it was really an important effort, and it has proven to be a really good economic generator in and of its own, with all of the tourists that come just to see our architecture.
What are some of the challenges we still face as a city in historic preservation?
There's still many challenges, and we still have to be very careful of how we treat those buildings. There's a lot of money coming in. There's a lot of development coming in. People would like to change a little bit, and I think the chiseling away at ordinance to change a little word here and a little word there, to make a little different here and a little different there, will change the character. By accumulating all the little changes, it will change the character. So I think that that's one of the challenges that we have, that sometimes we don't see right away, but when accumulated, we will see in the long run. And I think there are many more. Maybe you can elaborate on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's that constant pressure as the area becomes successful and it becomes more and more expensive to acquire properties. You look at people trying to maximize their development rights. And oftentimes, even though we did a large downzoning, and a lot of the buildings really you can add more to them, there are some buildings that were the smaller ones that have that potential for additions. And I think that there's always that constant balancing act between the owner's right and maintaining that architectural character, and how can you do sensitive additions and sensitive modifications to the buildings that could still preserve the character of the architecture and yet add that economic vitality. So it's a very delicate balancing act that the Commission has to deal with every time that we have an ordinance that proposes to modify things in certain ways.
What are some of the highlights you're proud of regarding preservation?
Well, I think that when it became the National Register, I think that that gave it something different.
Yeah.
It gave
in 1979, it was
right.
the first time that it was
That's
sort of
right.
recognized.
And then after we lost buildings, but we always lost a building and acquired something. And and then how it grew and it became protected by the city, and then how many more other historic areas we have.
Right. You know, the grassroots movement that identified was about a square mile of buildings in South Beach, those 800 properties. And that was just the National Register, the federal recognition. And that is sort of, and with the tax incentives that came along, it was the first time that people then began to notice at that asset and the value. But it wasn't until the city and the commission, little by little, filled in that National Register with local historic districts that we created the actual protection for demolition. So that was like a long, long process that we went through. And I guess in, in the mid-90s, we designated something outside of the historic district, the area south of 5th Street. And it was the first time that we created a local district that was not in the original architectural district. And that was a big step for the city.
That was.
And since then, you know, we've created other areas in Middle Beach and in North Beach as local historic districts as well. So, you know,
we have beautiful architecture in Miami Beach, and we're always trying to protect it.
Well, I know we recently had an election where a charter was presented for historical preservation. Anything else you'd like to add about that?
Well, I was very concerned that because of the struggles of the developers and the balance that we must keep as we move forward, and more people that were here at the very beginning that understand a lot what's going on are moving on. I brought a question to put on the ballot for the residents to vote, and I was very happy that it passed with high numbers. That now puts it in the charter that many of the ordinance and the power that the board has to go through a referendum to be diminished in power.
Right. Anything that would weaken the board's powers would require a vote of the people, and it passed with an overwhelming majority. So. And in the future, it doesn't mean that a commission can't contemplate a change. It just means that the voice of the people also has to be heard along with that to see if that change makes sense for the city.
Which makes it stronger. You know, they have to go back to the people and the residents.
Of course. Thank you very much. That's all the time we have right now. We'll be right back with much more ahead on Currents.
From New Orleans, and I'm a Saints fan, and you're watching MBTV 77. Who dat?
Welcome back to MB Currents, where we break down current issues that matter to residents of Miami Beach. I'm Maria Palacios. In this edition, we'll be talking about education. Our guests today are Mayor Matti Herrera and our interim city manager, Kathie G. Brooks. Thank you both for being here. Please give us some background on the International Baccalaureate or IB program.
We have a board here, the Quality of Education, that we had to do a compact with the school system. And so we were bouncing around what were we going to do. So the conclusion was that the baccalaureate program was the best program that we could do. And so we set out to do that here. And the activists on the board, which are the PTA parents, and I was one of them a long time ago, set out to do that. And so we did. And we have the baccalaureate program here, and it's a wonderful program. If you want to elaborate.
Just a little more. It is a program that was actually started originally by the United Nations. They wanted to establish a world standard for education. And it is internationally recognized around the world. It's really a system of learning, and it encourages creativity, community service, as well as focus on your home culture and language. It is a program that requires rigorous professional development on the part of the teachers, and requires authorization by the IB World Organization. It is also very well recognized at the college level, so kids who go all the way through have that benefit as well.
We've come a long way since this initiative started. Where are we now?
Well, we're almost, all the schools on the beach are already in the baccalaureate program. They've been accepted, and the first one was Beach High, and we have them all. The second one's with Nautilus and Fisher-Feinberg in the K through 8 in Fisher-Feinberg in the middle schools, and then the rest within the area. And we're waiting for Treasure Island to come in, which I think is going to come in by February, and because more than 40% of our children go to Treasure Island, which is in another city, but working together, we got that accomplished. So it's very good.
It is indeed, and as the mayor mentioned, we have all 5 schools here authorized. We have 7,000 students here in Miami Beach involved in the programs. At the lower levels, elementary school in particular, it is available to everyone, and it's really a method of teaching, as I mentioned earlier, so everyone can be involved. As you get to high school, it does get more rigorous, and so the students have to decide that they really want to put in that level of rigor, but they'll have gone through the training up to that point and the education system, so they have that opportunity to them. We started in 2008, as the mayor mentioned, with the Education Compact with the school board. We did the first school got authorized in 2010, and now indeed we have all in Miami Beach authorized and Treasure Island about to come on board.
Can you give us a specific story or feedback from the community that really illustrates our improvements in education?
Well, the community loves the program. I think a lot of people are coming in, and we, if let somebody try to take away the program, and that's how you get the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when everything is going smoothly, everybody loves it. There's not much feedback, but the feedback is very good. And particularly, you know, we have here something that no place else has, which is the complete feeder pattern from one place to another one. It's baccalaureate, and every single child in all the grades get the baccalaureate. So no place else in Dade County, and probably the nation, has it the way that we have it. So it's something that is uniquely to us, to Miami Beach, and I think the feedback is extremely good. It's well liked by everybody. The feedback of how the children are responding, the parents saw the difference immediately because it relates to the community. They are more intense and aware of what's happening in the community.
And something that's pretty unique to Miami Beach is that we are the only city to offer this as a non-magnet in all of our schools. That's very unique in the entire state of Florida. The other thing that we know, as the mayor mentioned, that it's positive in the community, we now have when we do our community surveys, over 90% of our residents who have children in the schools will now tell us they are, satisfied or very satisfied. So we get very positive feedback from the community on the schools.
What else would you like to add about this initiative?
Oh, I think that, I'd like to add that not only is something that we ourselves did, but the chamber helps, and there's the businesses help. This is a community activity. It's not only government and school. It has to be the community as a whole that is involved in this to be as successful. And so we invite the community as a whole to be involved in the baccalaureate program. It's very exciting to have this in Miami Beach. It creates for a better community.
The other thing that I would add is that we focus very much on the International Baccalaureate program, but it really is only one aspect of the compact that we have with the school board, which also focuses on other initiatives such as teacher recruitment and retention, on health, and a number of other areas. So we try to look at the whole school environment, although clearly we're very proud of the International Baccalaureate program.
That's all the time we have right now. Thanks so much for joining us here on MB Currents.